Hey guys, what's up? Alec Torelli. I'd like to share some thoughts on entrepreneurship today. Some things that really helped me kind of keep perspective and keep focused, get to that next level in my business that I think hopefully will help some of you guys as well. So for me, first of all, sometimes it's so easy to get caught in the midst of what I'm doing. And what I mean by that is you get sort of engulfed in your own world, and like you kind of lose, or at least for me, I don't say you guys, I lose perspective of like the world around me, and I get so caught up in my own world of what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build, what I'm trying to create, that the problems seem bigger than they are, because it's like you're dedicating, as an entrepreneur, you dedicate, you work 60 hours a week for yourself, so you don't have to work 40 for someone else, so you're dedicating so much of your life to what it is you're trying to do and build and hustle and create, that it's like the problems seem bigger, at least for me. And so little things sometimes get blown out of proportion, and dumb shit becomes it seems like it becomes important shit, and that creates like a lack of perspective. And so what I try to do in situations like that is take a step back and just say, what's my ultimate goal? What am I really trying to build? What's my vision? And ultimately, the perspective that I try to have is really something that I learned from poker. And that's, people ask me, like in poker, how do you focus? How do you stay concentrated and play your A game when you lose a massive pot and you get really unlucky in a big hand? And the perspective that I have that's only come in the last couple of years, after playing for 10, 15 years, it's only come in the last couple. Something I struggled with my whole career, but recently I've maintained this perspective, and it's still a work in progress, something I work towards every day to get a little bit better, but I've been able to maintain this perspective that's a little bit more lighthearted, that I've already won. Like, I'm just playing a fucking game. Like, poker is a game. And the fact that I could just play a game and I could create problems in that game, like a problem arises, like, oh, you got unlucky in a hand, that's a problem, but it's all in the construct of a game. So the fact that I'm playing a game for a living, by definition, means I've already won. Like, I've been dealt a great hand in life. Like, no matter what happens to me in poker, no matter how many bad hands I get dealt, or how many cards come that give me unlucky, or how many times I get a bad beat, or whatever happens, I'm still playing a game. And in the grand scheme of things, in the big game of life, I was dealt 2 fucking aces. So I've already won. I'm on a free roll. I can't lose. And I don't mean that arrogantly, I just mean it like, that's the perspective that I think people need to have in the first world. If you're watching this video, you've probably been dealt aces, maybe kings, maybe queens, but don't compare yourself, if you have queens, to the person that has aces. Look around and say 99% of the world has 7 deuce off, because they're struggling to find water and electricity and shelter. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they're like at the bottom, struggling. That's 90% of how the world lives on, like, not 90%, but a lot of the world lives on $1 a day. They're just struggling for basic shit that you and I take for granted every day, and that means I've already won. So entrepreneurship, poker's really taught me a lot about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship's a game. Like, I'm trying to build a following, I'm trying to build a brand, I'm trying to build a business, I'm trying to create ROI and email funnels and automations and campaigns. Like, it's all numbers, it's a game, right? Like, how much money you make is just that to me, and that means I've already won. So that's the first thing. I want to just lead with that, because if there's one thing you take away from this video, or from me, or from anything I probably ever say, I hope it's that perspective that this is just a free roll. What we call in poker means you can only win, you can't lose, and that's it. So I try to bring that energy. I lose perspective all the time. I'm human. I lose that perspective all the time. I get frustrated over dumb shit, like the barista gets my order wrong at the coffee that I'm paying $7 for and doesn't get it hot enough, and I'm like, oh my god, what the hell? They're out of ginger at Whole Foods, and my green juice isn't spicy. Like, I get pissed over dumb shit too, because I'm human just like you. But like, we've already won, man. So I'm just fired up. I'm excited. I guess the second thing that I really want to take a step back and have, and that's helped me in my perspective in life, is really, what am I doing it for? Like, so many times I'm trying to make a decision in business, and there's so many distractions for me, right? There's so many temptations. I'm like a little kid where, like, maybe I'm like a cat or something, where you dangle something in front of me and I'm like focused over here, and then I'm like, oh, whoa, there's something over there. And so I just get distracted over shit easily. So for me, I'm always trying to map my current action to my long-term vision. And I always try, like, I have to hack this for myself, because I'm not naturally good at this. I know what my vision is, I know what my goal is, I know what my ambition is, but I get distracted easily. And so I'm aware enough about myself to know that I need to kind of like hack my own situation to make this more apparent. And here's what I do. I write down things that I'm really trying to focus on. Where do I want to be in 3 years? And if I'm writing this in 2020, what am I writing about myself now? And then I try and map my current actions towards that. So what I do is try and keep that big picture perspective and make every decision that I make today go towards that long-term objective. And it's easy to sort of like lose sight of things and lose patience and get, derailed and unmotivated because it's frustrating, it's hard. Like you have to do things you don't want to do to get where you want to be. And so I always try and look at like, what am I really doing it for? Is my motivation money? Is my motivation a brand? Is my motivation impact? Is my motivation awareness? Is my motivation charity? Like, what is it that's really motivating me, and what contacts and partnerships and things do I want to build that are going to ultimately help me? And so the framework that I sort of try to put everything in is the lifestyle that I want to create. That's a big thing for me. If you guys follow me on my poker channel, like poker for me, when I first started playing at 16, it was sexy, it was appealing, and what really turned me on to poker when I was 18 and I dropped out of college to play poker full time, sure, I loved the idea that I could play a game for a living, but what I really liked more than playing a high stakes tournament in the Bahamas was going to the Bahamas. Like, I loved the fact that poker could bring me around the world, and I've been fortunate to travel to 40 countries because of the game. And so for me, now that I'm like building businesses, focusing a lot more of my attention on entrepreneurship, it's like, what lifestyle can I create for myself that would be the most important? And I feel like the way that I've gotten the most benefit from my business is mapping my long-term objective to what I'm doing now and taking a step back and saying, why do I want a business to begin with? Why do I want this amount of money? How much money do I want to make? How much money do I need to make? What kind of impact do I want? Why do I want a big brand? Like, what is it about it? And trying to be more self-aware to understand what my real motivations are. And some people, I feel like, that contact me are like in a spot where they're like, oh, they feel like they're 25, they're like, I want to make $1 million a year. And it's like, why? Like, what would change about your life? What would you want to spend? And then when they get their goals down on paper, it's an exercise I have absolutely free on alectorelli.com/blog. You could download like your monthly expenses and goals and put this stuff on paper and really kind of like get clear on these activities. And it's like, when people put this stuff on paper, it's like a lot of times they realize that their ideal lifestyle costs a lot less than they think. And I learned this personally reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It was like, wow, the things that are important to me, the things that I value, are mostly requiring my time. They don't really require that much money. So one of my big goals in my early 20s was move to Italy and learn Italian. And it seems like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Life in Italy costs less than the US, and learning Italian really doesn't cost that much money. It costs a lot of time. So I realized my ideal lifestyle doesn't really cost that much money. What it costs is me controlling my time, and as an entrepreneur, I do that. But when I kind of mapped out what really was meaningful to me in my life and what my life goals are and what things I wanted in the next 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, I realized, wow, like, even if I made, like honestly, like, at this point in my life, I'm kind of like simple. I don't really buy a lot of shit. I don't spend money on things. I just spend money traveling, and I spend money on experiences. And so if I made like 60K a year, I'm good. Like, I could live, if I control all my time and make like 50, 60K, I could like live pretty much whatever life I want. And so that makes me empowered because I don't need a lot of shit. I don't need a $10,000 watch. I don't need a $100,000 car. I don't need a fancy 5-bedroom house. Like, I don't need stuff. And so when you're willing to make sacrifices for what it is that's your highest priority, and when you really get down on paper what you actually want, I think it changes the perspective of entrepreneurship, and it changes what business you're trying to build. And so I would challenge people out there that are really trying to say, like, my priority is to travel. This is the thing I get the most often, sharing my life with people on Instagram and on YouTube, is like, people are like, oh, I would love to be able to travel like you. And it's like, and I get to talking to them, and I respect what everybody wants, all right? I'm not here to say that traveling is better than not traveling, or a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom house in North Carolina isn't as good as, traveling around Asia and backpacking through Southeast Asia. I'm agnostic towards what people want. My whole thing is people trying to match what their ambition is to what they're actually doing and what they're saying. So it's like, you're matching your priorities to what you're actually doing and where you're spending your money. And money is a statement of our priorities. So a lot of people are like, oh, I would love to travel, but then I get to talking to them and they're like, oh, well, I have a $400 car payment on a BMW. It's like, fuck you. You don't want to travel, or you do, but you don't want to travel as much as you want to have a BMW and a fancy watch. And I respect that. If that's what you want, cool. But don't be like, I want to travel, and then your actions aren't mapping your words, because then there's a disconnect. So it's like, find out what your biggest priority is. For me, it's about living a life of complete freedom that gives me options and choices. Freedom, excitement, choices, that's my thing. So that's what it is for me. And so every decision I make on the micro is about the macro. And like, there's so many decisions I make on a small basis that don't infringe on the freedom that I have in my life. And I make big sacrifices on the macro, like at this point, Ambra and I don't have kids. We don't have a dog. You know how much I'd like a dog? When my parents moved to this house when I was 9 years old, I was bawling out of control crying, right? And I was super pissed. I was super tilted because I loved my other house and I was a kid. I didn't want to move. And the consolidation was that I would get a dog, and that to me was the most, that was like it. I was like, I don't care if we move, I get a dog. I ended up never getting a dog. That's another story. Anyway, and for me, that was like it. And the fact that I could get a dog was like the most exciting thing in the world to me. And I've always wanted a dog since I was 10 years old. I've still never got one. I'm 31. I would love a little dachshund dog that I could cuddle with and paint, like just talk to, and it would be so cute, and I could like walk it around. I already have a name for it. I would love that. It would be really meaningful to me. And I'm like, partly, you know, a quarter of me is like envious when I see other people with a dog. Not envious, but a quarter of me is like just yearning for that when I see other people with a dog. But then it's not as much as I would like to backpack around Southeast Asia and Thailand and travel. So it's like, I understand my priorities, but I make big sacrifices in the macro, and then I make small sacrifices in the micro. Like, I don't buy a lot of shit. So everything I own with Ambra is in 1 or 2 suitcases, and when we go to travel around to different countries, like, there's a lot of times where I would want more clothes, I would want more things, I would want an extra pair of shoes, I would want something for a little table, but like, I don't have anywhere to put it, and I live simply, and so that allows me to travel. So every decision I make in the macro and the micro really helps facilitate my #1 priority, which is travel, but it's about sacrifice, man. And I make a lot of sacrifices for that. Like, there's a lot of things in my life that people are like, oh, you know, like that, I don't want that as much as I thought I wanted it. So it's about being self-aware, and it's about mapping your actions to your priorities. So I really think when you step back and look at the overall 30,000 foot view as an entrepreneur, it's really about being grateful, #1, because you've already won the game. And you're just playing a game. You're just trying to make your life you're trying to make your business facilitate what your life goals are. And it's just a game. You're just trying to maximize all of your options in life. And that's what entrepreneurship is to me. It's a game. Secondly, you're just trying to make sure that you're mapping your actions to your priorities. You're doing what you want maximally with your ambition in your life. And it's about understanding your priorities, #3, and then mapping your actions towards that in the macro and the micro decisions you make, and really trying to understand like how much it is that is required for your ideal lifestyle, what it costs, and what it is you want to build and why. And so that's, for me, the perspective I try to keep, some of the conversation I try to have. I hope this video was inspiring. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I rambled a little bit, but that's what I do. That's my style. That's my thing. And yeah, much love to everybody. I really appreciate your time and attention. If you have comments, please leave them below. I read all my comments. And if you have questions, leave them below as well. I'd be happy to make new content for you guys on this YouTube. Much love, everybody. Take it easy. Cheers.